Welcome, everyone, to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual cognitive behavior and neurolinguistic programming practitioner specializing in anger management issues, both court appointed and private, marriage and relationship coaching, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session in both French or English, and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DNB Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found at lifecoach.drdanamzallag.com. In today's ninth episode of season 33, I'm very excited to have Holly Porter as our special guest and someone sharing her near-death experience, the miracle of life on how to practice resilience during hard life situations. So, without further ado, and as with all of our previous episodes, I will leave it up to the guest to properly introduce herself, as no one else can do a better job. Holly, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dan. I'm excited to be here on your show as a guest, so thanks for having me. Yeah, I've been an entrepreneur pretty much all my life. Both my parents were. We raised 8 adult children and now have 19 grandchildren. I've had 12 startup companies, so life was pretty busy before I got sick with COVID and spent 70 days in the hospital, intubated 2 times, had a trachea, had sepsis, a couple life other infections that would have taken me out, and yet here I am. So in about 3.5 weeks of my story is when I had all of my out of body and near death experience and spiritual transformative experience. And that definitely shifted about everything in my life. And here we are today.
Wow. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for being here to open up and share your story. So, were you clinically dead?
It's funny you say that. I've been asked that before. I need to pull my records because from what I've been told, I want to say no, I don't think so. And I've been told by many other people that people are, and then they're never told, like their family's never told because maybe it was just for a minute or whatever. I know I was on the brink many days during that time. But clinically, I don't know. I can't really answer that. I need to probably dig into that a little bit. And did they document it? I don't know.
So, but then for the NDE, for them, for someone to experience the near-death experience, there must be a separation of the physicality and the soul of the individual to be able to see what happens next. So, if you could
Yeah.
explain to us what really is NDE. I mean, I know I've listened to the interview with Dr. Eben Alexander, who was on Oprah Winfrey a while
Yeah.
back, who was a neuroscientist, and he actually experienced, I think he had meningitis, and he died for I think what 8 minutes, and then he was
Yeah.
back to life. And he explained about his journey of what he saw after his soul departed from his physical body. So what did you experience?
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, I want to say I didn't know until a couple years after my experience that there's three distinctive things that I learned about the out of body experiences, and then there is spiritual transformative experiences, and then near death experiences. And depending on who you ask, those could all be near death experiences. But I can tell you every one of my experiences, including a nightmare and including like a lucid dream, every one of those, I could tell you what it was now that I know the definition and the differences because they were all very different to me. The near death was definitely the most powerful. For me, I went in my bed. Is interesting that I must have been, when we talk about the brain, I must have been aware enough that I was not okay because I knew that if I didn't take my bed with me on all these journeys, that I might not get it back. And
Mhm.
my bed had my body in it. And so my bed and me went on all these journeys. And then as I would have these experiences, obviously I was not in my bed. So I would travel to the experience in my bed and then get out of it and have these. And so the near death was the same as I was going down the hospital corridor. I'm watching other hospital beds go down the corridor with me. It was during COVID, so a lot of people, half the people in the hospital I was in were dying. And I believe those other beds were people dying, and that's what I was seeing. And then I got to this what I call a stadium, and we were all put in like the sky boxes of the stadium, like picture a football field. That's
Mhm.
kind of how I pictured it because we were in bed. So we got rolled into there. And then I had this like space of time where I couldn't relate until later. I found out why, but there was just this space. And all of a sudden now I'm out of the bed. I'm in the stadium. I call it the Stadium of Light. I didn't see a tunnel, anything like that. It could have been in that space of time that I don't recall, but I was in the brightest place I've ever seen. Everybody was, I mean, thousands, I would say hundreds of thousands of people are in the stadium. And I could see feet, so I knew that nobody was on the ground
Mhm.
and they were all in white, bright clothing. Um, I remember having conversations with telepathy so fast that like I couldn't even almost finish a thought before I knew the answer. So I talk about like the gift of knowing, which I felt like I had before. This experience where people would say, "How do you know that?" And if you have that gift, it's just like you just know. You don't know why you know, you just know something. Well, there it was like the gift of all knowing. And you just, if you didn't know, you knew like instantly. And so, next thing I know, there's all this music from all four sides. I could hear all four directions. I could hear it. And it was the most angelic sounds I had ever heard. Like, just the vibration of it. And it was, I didn't know any of the songs that were happening, but I knew the words to every song. And I think that was part of that knowing. It was an automatic. I love to sing, so of course I'm joining in. And I said later, I felt like it was the best concert I had ever been to, not realizing you had a net. Later I didn't realize, you had a near death experience. It's like how I'm trying to explain things were angelic, and I like, oh gosh. So long COVID, or not long COVID, but COVID, definitely is a brain disease. So it definitely messes with your mind and the brain fog and all that was happening, right after. But my life review I went to, it was like sitting in a play and I was watching it for me. And I only saw good. And I'm thinking, I'm not thinking then, I'm thinking later. Like, why did I only see the good? I mean, I'm not complaining. I've done plenty of bad things, but I was like, you're in such this positive, perfect place of love and joy and peace and all the good feelings. You don't have the thought of something negative there. Like everything is so perfect that it's like later when we come back to our bodies when we start thinking of all this stuff. And I just got to witness, the service I gave to people and the love I gave to people and the kindness I gave to people. And we can talk about later. Later, I kind of found out I had a hypnosis session on this and I revisited some things. And that was when I asked questions because during this time, it was all just so peaceful. But I was given two things. I was told to start this nonprofit called Adventure Bucket Wish. And I wasn't given the mission, just the name. And then I was told I had pitched a company, a brand new company that I just started. It wasn't incorporated or anything yet. It was just more of a concept. But I pitched a company that had a billionaire backer, and I really wanted to partner with them. And I was so excited about it. I felt like it was a company that would be like, it's international. It would just be a world changer. And I was told not to partner with them, that that wasn't the highest and best thing to do, that that wasn't where my journey needed to go. I needed to keep it mine. So then I was sent back, excuse me, and I wasn't given the choice, which I was a little bothered by because I probably would have chose to stay there. I mean, it's way better than here.
Mhm.
And I was sent back and I remembered exactly what I needed to do. I knew that I had two more books. I mean, I already had a lot of books that I've published or been part of, and I wasn't really interested in doing any more, but I knew one was for this experience and this story, and I knew one was for the philanthropy work that's coming out of what I'm doing now. And it was just interesting how that knowing, I like knew, even though I had so much brain fog and I ended up with long COVID after. The process was long, and about 2 years, I really struggled after. Like, I would say if you take every bad day you've ever had,
Mhm.
times it by 100, it was like that heaviness every day I was feeling. And I had prayed. I wished I would have died every day. It was like, why did I get saved to come back to this and go through this? And I was just going through a lot of really challenging things. And then 2 years later is when I kind of started coming out of that. Um, you mentioned, one of the non near death people we were talking before, and I went to Ian's and he was there, Evan Johnson, and not Evan Johnson.
Evan
And
Alexander.
thank you. I have another friend named that. Um, anyway, he was a speaker there, and it was IANS, International Association for Near-Death Studies, and that's where I found out about these different experiences and that I had had all of them. And I was just coming out of that I call it my 2 years of hell because that's what it felt like. And that's when, after I came out of that, I knew that conference, I knew I needed to do. I'm certified in hypnosis, and I asked my mentor coach if he would do one on me for the near death specifically. I really remembered the out of body experiences. I remembered the spiritual experience when I knew I would live, but the near death had gaps in the story that I felt like weren't all there.
Mhm.
And he agreed. And so we did that. And it's been really interesting to see what's happened since that experience because he took me to where I didn't remember. And he also said more would be revealed to you when the time is right, which felt so calming at the time because I usually am the type that wants to know everything at once. And I knew that I couldn't do that. And so that experience just was so healing for me after the 2 years. I ended up in this like not dark and not light. I call it the in between. And I ended up there first, and there was an entity there, and we talked to him, and he was wanting my light because he couldn't have the light. And it was kind of like the journey I had that I didn't remember before I saw the light, before I saw the good, and before I saw these changes. And in that, when I ended up over in the light, he that's when I remembered to ask, like, why am I only in the life review seeing the good? And I didn't see God, but I heard him. And he said, I'm showing you the good because that's what matters. And
Mhm.
I just thought, wow, that's such a God of love. And of course, thank you. That's what I needed to see, was the good. And
But
then he
let me
gave me
ask you
this message. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, let me ask you. The thing is that what people like to understand more is that when you went through this near-death experience versus the out-of-body experiences, people just like to know that, people travel galaxies and universes and try to see what's out there. This is what you've done. I mean, really detaching yourself from your physical body, explore the universe, and then come back.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like the space I was in was what I call that stadium of light. I felt like I didn't feel like I went through the tunnel. I didn't feel like I went through galaxies. Like, I felt like I just ended up in that space, and then I ended up in my life review space. Um, I mean, the darkness of the other experience, where I saw the in between,
Mhm.
even that, I didn't feel like there was like galaxies, or I didn't feel like that time travel. My out of body experiences, ironically, you say that time travel. I went back in a little town called Perwin, Utah, and many of my out of body experiences were there, and it was I went back to the house that I was in, and it ended up being my great 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 grandfather's home, and approximately 165 years ago. And that's where I was a lot of the time in my other experiences. So it was interesting that you say the travel, because I felt like I never went forward in time. I always went back in time, and then a few times I went present time. And then the near death, like I said, it was just that huge stadium of light for me.
But then can you, in your travels, can you figure out if the body, whatever it saw in the present, past, or future, or it didn't see the future, but in the past and the present, can you, let's say if you go to a landmark in your neighborhood where you used to live, can you figure out if what you saw during your out-of-body experience is actually what's happening right now?
Well, then when I went back in time, the place I was in 165 years or so approximately, things change a lot. So
When you
when I
of
went
course, that's
back
the
there
last time,
and
it was the now time.
so when I went to real time, like I had to like look, oh, okay, that's where the field was. That's where that like bunkhouse was, where there's like houses there now. It's because it's a small town, but yeah, there were in the home itself, it had been remodeled a couple times. It was an old pioneer home, but the staircase that was really creepy. There was some lots of creepy things that happened. That original staircase, it was spiral. It went down into this floor that had dirt floor. That was still there when I went back and visited it. That kind of creeped me out, I have to say. That was like verification that, oh my gosh, this is where I was. This is the original thing. And so yeah, those were kind of like those kinds of verifications I got where I knew I was in that place just by those visuals, right?
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's what a lot of people like to know is that
Yeah.
because is there a proof to all this? Because this is a very like a spiritual enlightenment that
Mhm.
what you've went through. But then again, what is the accuracy behind all of what you've experienced? Is it something that you can say to yourself, well, wow, this actually happened because now I'm at that location and I saw that the wall was red in my dream or in my out-of-body
Yeah.
experience, and I see it red as well. So that means that something has some accuracy behind all that versus just what your mind can create.
Yeah, I can tell you another story that was more the out of body, not the near death. So a few doors down from my hospital room, there was my sister's brother-in-law. He also was in the hospital sick, and he wasn't very healthy. He was a smoker, which COVID affected them a little harder. And he had pulled his ventilator out a couple times. And so I'm hearing stories later about him, but what I had remembered was on one of my out of body experiences, I was in the hallway of the hospital and I remember looking in his room and I like knew intuitively he was going to die. Like I remember watching him going, gosh, I'm sad he's not going to make it, because he was part of our family. And that was probably one of the experiences when that was another verification. Another verification was people say when you're in a coma, because I was in a coma many of those days, sometimes paralyzed, sometimes not, medically induced. And I remember people say, do you remember conversations? Well, my sister was in the room with me and she was working on buying another home. And I didn't know anything about it until like probably a couple months after I got out of the hospital. Then they told me about it. But I had an out of body experience back in this pioneer house, but it was in a house that she was buying for an Airbnb. Like the whole experience I created around listening to what she was saying while I was in my coma. So like there was some synchronicities there where I was like, oh, okay, this really was happening. I was staying in this home and she was buying this home. And of course it wasn't the same home, but I'm just saying it shows you when I was in a coma, I could hear what was going on. They say your hearing is the last thing to go.
Absolutely. And do you think that the out-of-body experience can be misconstrued as déjà vu?
Because of where I went and what I saw, and then later to getting these verified things, I don't feel like that's the case. I feel like maybe like some of my other dreams could have been, or some of the nightmares, so to speak, could have been. But I think that some people would even consider, out of body experiences, near death experiences. For me, I don't. I feel like they were just I was probably near death, but I was just exploring, probably waiting for my body to heal because I was happy when I was in a coma because I lost all five senses. And when you lose all five senses at once, it's devastating. I mean, you can't, it just, I didn't want to be awake in that hospital.
Yes,
So
yes.
like those were blessings I felt like to get these out of body experiences.
And what about, so when it comes to practicing resilience after everything that you went through, Holly, what
Yeah.
does this experience actually, both the out of body and near death experience, have given you to now not take everything too seriously and kind of like practice resilience when things in life gets very, very difficult?
Yeah. Well, the best practices I had on resilience was just getting better because every day my motto was better is better. What can I do today for my health that's going to make it better, today than it was yesterday? Because long COVID's no joke. I was a very healthy person walking in, walked in on no drugs, walked out on 12. So, it was just a different life, a different headspace. For about a year and a half after, I was still pretty sick. I was on oxygen for a long, long time. So it's like learning how to do, it's like all of a sudden you have a disability when you never did. You were perfectly healthy, fine. And now all of a sudden you have all these setbacks. And I think what kept me going was the fact that I had these two assignments. Within 4 months of getting out of the hospital, being really sick, I incorporated both companies, the nonprofit, got a 501(c)(3, incorporated my other company. I felt like, if God saved me, who am I not to do what I was shown and asked to do? And so I just didn't even think about it. It wasn't like, it was just like, do it, do it, do it. And really, the 2 hard years came about the same time that I incorporated those companies. That's kind of when a lot of the setbacks hit me. And I believe after talking to other people that have these kinds of experiences, it sounds like a lot of people go through hard struggles after. And you would think that everyone would gravitate towards you because you almost died and you saw the other side and they want to be near you. But for me, it was the opposite. It was like I was repelling everybody. And so now that I'm well and I'm out of that space and I'm in a much better, space, I am just going to continue what I know I'm supposed to do. I feel like I was handed this life book. I call it the life Bible, and it had the ending, and I know what that's supposed to be like, and I just have to go and fill in all the pages with what I'm doing now to get to that end. And I feel blessed to have that because who gets that? I mean, I don't think very many people get that. And I feel like there's always good. You just have to look for it every day and just think what you can do to make where you are better.
Absolutely. And a lot of people are just asking themselves, is it true? I mean, when you look at some of the movies such as Armageddon, when Bruce Willis was about to just press the button before the asteroid had to explode and he sees all his life passing by
Yeah.
him. You said that you've seen only the good things. So was that a sign that it was not the end?
I don't know. I feel like for me because I feel like that's what I needed to keep doing more good. Like the bad's there. Trust me, I've done plenty.
We all have that.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like seeing my life review, it just I feel like that's what I needed to see. And I feel like that's God shows us it. I think that's why near-death experiences are different for everybody. There's similarities, but then there's differences. And I believe that it's because we're shown how we can understand and
Mhm.
how we know that to be true. So when people are in different religions and they see, their rabbi or their
Yes.
pope or their president or whatever it is, that's because that's what they know and that's how they can understand what kind of guidance they're getting. So that's just my theory, but it seems to make sense.
No, it definitely doesn't make sense. But you just mentioned something interesting, Holly, about religion and also, as in the Jewish religion, we do believe in reincarnation. So do you think that this out-of-body experience allow you to be able to have a better understanding that if your mission was not accomplished on Earth, do you think that reincarnation is inevitable?
It's interesting because I was raised very religious, not believing in that, not believing in past lives. And it's been interesting to shift from a religious background's perspective to a more spiritual. So I can't really say I have an answer for that because I still I feel like that's a piece I'm processing still because it's the unknown for me, right?
Yeah, and it's going to be very difficult to really have any proof behind it. As Albert Einstein said, if anyone is capable to be able to define what God is, his brain will melt.
Wow.
Yes, that
Never
was
heard
the
that. I
story.
like that.
And the thing is because it's very, very difficult to really, I mean, if you go back before the Big Bang, like 13.2 billion years ago, there was nothing. But what is nothing? Is it light? Is it darkness?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's very hard to really understand what came before all of that. So
Yeah.
that's why when you get into that spiritual depth of what you went through, does it does it give you the capabilities in understanding more than what we can see?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm not a big thinker. Like I'm a doer. And so for me, I feel safe just seeing and believing what I know, knowing that there's more and that again, more will come to you or more will be revealed when the time is right. That's what I was told. And I'm just at peace with that. Like I'm not one that has to have all the answers. I feel like they will be revealed within time. I've gotten things that have dripped more information, in the last 4 years. And then it's like, I understand a little more. And then I get another thing and I'll understand a little more. And for me, I'm okay with that. I mean, one thing I didn't mention that I was told that was a life changer for me, especially after the 2 years of hell, I was told after I was told I'm seeing the good, I was told love them where they're at. And those words and that message has shifted me and many people that I've told that to. When you just love people where they are, it takes all of that judgment away. It's gone. It's just like you can't control that. You can only control you. And that was just gave me so much peace at that same time that I really needed to heal my heart from what I was going through. And so every day, I really just think, love them where they're at.
So do you think that when you talk about practicing resilience, Holly, um, is it the fact that you just mentioned, as long as you learn to accept people the way they are without the need to change them or to expect them to change on your behalf, or whatever they are in life is who they are and that's that. Is that a way of resilience?
For me, it is. I feel like it's that acceptance. It's like, I think the first thing we have to do is love ourselves where we are because we are our biggest critics and
Mhm.
we want to condemn ourselves for all the things that we're doing. And it's like, okay, how about I just love myself where I'm at? Let's start there and then let's work outwards.
But then if you criticize yourself, you're not practicing resilience because you
No.
always find fault in everything that you do. So it means that you're not accepting yourself.
Yeah. So like I said, love you where you're at. Start there. Because if you love yourself, it shifts everything around your thinking.
But it doesn't change your frustration. That's the thing. It doesn't change how you get frustrated with other people's behavior because again, if it goes under the philosophy of Stoicism with Mark Aurelius, and he said that about the one of the pillars says about the dichotomy of control, which focusing more on the things that you can control, which is your own behavior, versus trying to control other people or change other people, because we try to emulate what we find to
Yeah.
be inspiring, what we find to be like happiness will attract happiness, misery will attract misery. That's a given. But when it comes to the thing that we want to change from within ourselves, we tend to always look at other people who have changed, who have done the work to be able to get to where they want to be. But
Yeah.
sometimes we refuse to see a certain aspect of reality and we try to kind of stay in our little cocoon, in our like circle of comfort and
Yeah.
zone. And we feel that maybe it's the environment or society that has to change, and there's no fault on our own.
Yeah, I would agree. A lot of us do that. And I think the only thing we can change is us, right?
Mhm.
And so I think it's just figuring out don't judge everybody on or where don't judge yourself on where somebody else is because that could be easy for them because that's their journey. You have your journey. Maybe your journey is supposed to be hard. And
Yes.
where's your resilience for that? Like maybe that's what it's teaching you. And so for me, okay, for instance, when I was going through the 2 years of hell, what I look back now and say, dang, I wish I would have asked the question,
Mhm.
what do I need to learn out of this to get through it faster? And I
Yes.
feel like that's $1 million question. And we can apply that into everything you're saying.
Yes. Unfortunately, we get $0 for the answer.
Give me the answer or give me the test. Let me figure this out. Give me the lesson today so that we can just move on. And
Yes.
instead We don't think of things that way because guess what? We're in it and it's hard and we're victims and we're like, poor me, poor me. And until you can sit back and look at the bigger picture, it's hard to heal from things.
Absolutely. So before we end the podcast, Holly, and I know I could go on and on asking you about all those questions, but then it will last 6 hours. If you could let people know about where they can find your books, you said that you publish a few of them. Just the one that is the most recent, talking about your own NDE or OBE.
Yeah, it talks about all of them. It's a personal development book and my story. So it's the first spiritual book I've had. It's called Near Death Shift.
Mhm.
What dying taught me about life, business, and purpose. That
Okay.
pretty much sums it up. And neardeathshift.com is where you can get all the links. So you can get it on Amazon, you can order it for me, and I'll sign a copy for you, whatever you'd like.
Beautiful. Well,
Thank
Holly,
you.
that is all the time that we have for today's podcast. And again, thank you sincerely for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. And we all appreciate your participation to this episode by sharing with us your near-death experience and how to practice resilience during a very challenging time in your life. Your story is certainly very inspiring to our millions of listeners out there, and we thank you for that. Now, to
Thank
our
you.
millions of listeners out there, we do hope that you've enjoyed today's episode as much as we did. And also, we're very excited for what's ahead of season 33 of the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, featuring a lineup of incredible guests with powerful stories that will continue to uplift and inspire all of you. Now, here are some concluding words of wisdom. Surviving a near-death experience changes the way you see life forever. It reminds you that every breath is a gift and every day is an opportunity to begin again. Hard moments may shake you, but they also reveal a strength you may not have known existed within you. Resilience is not about avoiding pain. It's about rising after it and choosing to keep moving forward. So when life tests you at your lowest point, it also shows you how powerful the human spirit truly is. Challenges may slow your steps, but they cannot stop a determined heart. Let your survival become a reminder that you're not here for a reason, that you're actually here for a reason. Carry that strength into every new day and live with courage, gratitude, and purpose. My name is Dr. Dan Emzallag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life. Stay tuned for our next episode.